Genesis and Invisible Touch. Wednesday Paddy McDee programme here through till 1 o'clock in the morning. Special guest on the show tonight, Northeast musician and songwriter extraordinaire, Steve Thompson, with us in just a little while. You might remember a track called Hurry Home by Wavelength, which was a big hit back in the 1980s, one of many songs that Steve has written. He's written for Celine Dion, Sheena Easton, Elkie Brooks, The Hollies, Elaine Page. The list is endless, and he's our special guest just after 10:30. Breakfast at Tiffany's. Well, now, special guest on the programme tonight is a musician, producer, songwriter extraordinaire, man of many parts, Steve Thompson. It's way past his bedtime, but he's with us on the show tonight. And I mentioned at the start of the programme a number of the famous names he's written songs for, and we mentioned this track too, which was, you might remember, a big hit back in 1982. Wavelength, way back in 1982. Hurry Home. I remember playing it when it first came out. Written by our guest on the show tonight, Northeast songwriter. I said songwriter extraordinaire at the start of the programme, Steve Thompson. And lovely. I haven't seen you for ages, Steve.
No, it's I can't remember what it is. I came across this cassette here, you know, and it's dated. I did an interview with you in March 2000. I'll digitise that for you and send you that, because I was just saying, I've been coming and talking to you for 36 years now. Originally it was Metro, and I remember when Hurry Home, it was a bit of a surprise, because I'd been trying to crack it for quite a few years, and then bing, it was hurtling up the charts, and at some point in time I came and spoke to you about that, and I don't know if it was when it reached its peak or it was, because it actually took 3 months to reach its peak.
I think it was as it was. What's the phrase? Bubbling under.
Bubbling under.
They used to say, didn't they?
And then it went ballistic.
And quite recently, Sarah Brightman's recorded it, hasn't she?
That's right. She put it out on a triple album called Rarities, and it's her own version of Hurry Home. Surprise, surprise. I didn't even know that she'd recorded it for quite some time.
Because you sent me a copy some months back, and we did play that one night. It's nice to hear a different version.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mentioned at the start of the show a list of the names you've written songs for. Is it often the case that maybe somebody records a song and you're not aware of it?
Yeah. In fact, it's funny you should mention that, because I didn't see you for quite a time after the Hurry Home thing happened, because I was whisked off, and all manner of things started to happen. And I think I did a few early days interviews with you when I was trying to crack it, and you played some of my earlier stuff. And once Hurry Home happened, and I'll tell you what, there's another guy, Mike Pinder from the Searchers, actually recorded at one point in time. I don't have a copy of it. He made a live recording on a show, and I heard about that later. But loads of people started to record my songs. And I got hooked up with a guy called Pete Waterman, signed me to MCA Music, and that was a story in itself. He's a cracker. He used to make things up. He put it about for a long time, and I can't shake it. There's people to this day believe it. He told people that I was a ghostwriter for Paul McCartney, and it was Paul McCartney of the demo on the demo for Hurry Home. And the more you try to tell someone that you've never even met the guy, they think you're just covering up. And they go,
well, I mean, he just made that up out of the blue.
Yeah. He's made several things up over the years. He told the Searchers that I could only write songs on buses. So when I finally met the Searchers, because they did one of my numbers, they said, "Is that right? You can only write songs on buses?" I said, "No, I have been known to write the odd song on a bus, but it's not an impediment that I can only possibly ever write songs on buses." I digress just briefly, but didn't Alan Hull write, was it Fog on the Tyne on the top of a bus? I'm sure one of the big Lindisfarne songs was written on a bus. Well, he may well have done.
It must be a good place for songwriters.
Well, the thing is about songwriting is you have to learn to catch the ideas when and where they occur, and it could be anywhere. But I once said to Pete, "So why do you make up these stories?" I think I accused him of lying. He said, "It's not a lie." He said, "The music business is boring, so I create a myth to make it interesting." And it certainly worked, because it intrigued the Searchers, so I think they would have recorded the song anyway. So I went along to their live show, and it was absolutely... Because you remember, they were a 60s act, and they cut my song in the 80s. So I was a big fan of them in the 60s, so to get to meet them and hear them record, playing one of my songs, it was fabulous.
They're still a really good live band, too.
Yeah.
I saw them a year or so back. Excellent.
Yeah. So the mystery song I was about to reveal to you...
Oh, yes.
Hurry Home should have been recorded by Sheena Easton. That was the original plan. And she didn't record it. She recorded another song called Please Don't Sympathise, which is also in the show with the new band. And about 12 months after that Hurry Home, I had an even bigger hit. Totally surprised me, because I didn't hear about it till a little while later. There was a recording of the Sheena Easton track covered in Canada, and it was a massive hit in Canada and France, and it went gold. It was Celine Dion.
And this is when? Back in the 80s?
It was 83. It was almost exactly a year after the Hurry Home track. I didn't hear about it straight away because, strangely, my publisher at the time forgot to tell me. And I learned of it by a fan of Sheena Easton knew that Celine had covered this track. She must have been a big fan. But she'd recorded it in French. And the moment I put Ne me plaignez pas into a search engine, bing, up it came. My name was on it and everything. And now it's on about a dozen compilation albums. It still sells. It was absolutely huge, because at that time she was singing in French, and she was a big act in Canada. And obviously being in French, it sold well in France as well. But I couldn't have told you about that at the time, because I didn't know it.
You weren't aware of it.
No.
Let's hear another song. Elkie Brooks recorded one of your tracks, and this is actually featured in the live show, which we'll talk about, which is taking place next week, and another one in December. But is there a story behind this song?
Yeah, the Elkie Brooks track. I had been trying to get Elke's attention for a while, because at that point in time, when I was writing songs, the day of the pure songwriter was somewhat limited, you know. The ideal time to come at it would be the 60s. So you had a handful of acts that would do other people's songs. So at that time, Gus Dudgeon was producing it. So I thought the best way to get in would be to write a song with Gus. So I wrote a song with Gus, and that was a show in itself. It was just a major undertaking. It took us weeks. And he took the song to Elke. It was called Going Solo. The demo was sung by Mo Scott, another local singer.
All right.
Yeah. And Elke fired Gus. So that was the end of that. And so I started pitching songs at her direct. And Gus, bless him, even though he was fired as a producer, was still helping me and commenting on the song and suggesting improvements. And I actually got 2 songs on the next album. One that I co-wrote with a guy called Tommy Morrison, called I've forgotten what it was called, I'll tell you in a minute. And this particular one you're going to play that I wrote on my own, called The Last Teardrop. The other one was called One of a Kind.
That's this one, I think, isn't it?
I don't know.
I think that's the one we're going to play. Let's hear it anyway. Elke Brooks, one of a kind, one of many songs written by our guest on the show tonight, Steve Thompson. So there was that one, and the other track, which I think you said Elke still performs, called The Last Teardrop.
That's right, yeah, that was a single from the album. She still does that in the shows.
They're still going strong, these people, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, they keep going, the old-timers.
And you too.
And you, Paddy.
We'll talk. You've got a couple of live shows coming up. One, in fact, a week tonight, and another in December. So we'll talk about and a great lineup of guest vocalists too. So we'll chat some more after the news. Steve Thompson with us on the show tonight. We'll play some more tracks and talk about the gigs after. R.E.M., Losing My Religion. Quick mention for Dale Armstrong. I nearly forgot. He's 23 tomorrow. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Dale. Guest on the show tonight is Steve Thompson, songwriter Steve Thompson. We played Hurry Home by Wavelength. We played an Elke Brooks track. We've been catching up on loads of the artists that Steve has written songs for over the years. Actually, if I can just go back a long way to the 1960s, before the kind of songwriting began, people with long memories might remember a group called Bullfrog.
Yeah. It's funny you should say that, because the new show is a huge new departure for me. It's I've never done this before, which is all the songs you're referring to. I never went out and performed them because other artists were performing them, were part of their repertoire. And it's such an eclectic range of songs that you would never put them into one bag. But they are now in one bag, and we are doing Bullfrog. We're doing the Bullfrog. Back in those days, there were lots of local bands had record deals, and Bullfrog were one of them. And that was where I started. In 1969, in Concert Steelworks, we put together a band, and we set out to conquer the world. And we had a single out. Now, we're not doing the A side of the single, we're doing the B side. Our record company must have thought we were wonderful because we actually promoted the B side rather than the A side. Now, you might wonder why a band would do that, but the A side was called Ridley Tiddly Tum, and there's no way, with our rock and roll credentials, we're going to do that. So, we're doing the B side, which is called In the City. Now, around about the time that Bullfrog were doing the circuit, you know, the Rex and Whitley Bay and all the usual stuff, there were several other bands. One particular band called Beckett, featuring Terry Slessor on vocals. Terry is the guy who was going to do the Bullfrog song with us.
No, opportune that I mentioned Bullfrog. I think Terry might be listening tonight.
He is. He just texted me and complained because I hadn't mentioned it. Terry Slessor. I've said it twice.
and Beckett were a big band in the Northeast, weren't they? Great band. I know it's a long time since Terry's been in, but we played quite a few of the old Beckett tracks. I remember they did a single called Little Girl, I think. Yeah. If I remember rightly, which I've got
it did really
somewhere
well,
tucked away at home. Yeah. But good band. And then the Tigers of Pantan.
Yeah, that surprised me as well because Bullfrog were a rock band. But by the time I started to produce bands, things had moved on a bit. So you're into the disco generation a little bit, you know. And I was producing bands at Timbo Studios in Wallsend, and in walked the Tigers of Pantang, and I thought, why are they doing this stuff? This is really old-fashioned. It's what we used to do. What I didn't realise was that we were on the cusp of something called the new wave of British heavy metal, which I've gone down. I'm in books as being one of the godfathers of the.
You are the godfather.
That's the trouble when you're making history. You never know that it's happening. I've got no pictures or nothing of the time. So I produced the first single, and they went off and did all manner of things. And then by the time the fourth album was being put together, the band were aware of some of the songs I've been writing, and they really wanted to do a song called Paris by Air. Now that song, now the other thing about, I hasten to add, about this show where we've put together all these songs I've written for people, and that particular song for the Tigers is in there as well, is I'm also going to tell the stories behind the songs and play some media clips. You'll see Bullfrog, you'll see me as you never saw me, with a full head of hair, so the story behind Paris by Air was it was written for a girl, and the story is very much about a girl trying to break free of it was a girl called Toni Holliday who lived in Washington, and it was about what she told me about her life went into that song. But when the Tigers wanted to do it, I had to rewrite it for a male vocal. So when we do it next week at Nemix, it's reverting to a girl song, and Lorraine Crosby's singing that one.
So you've got. Let's just mention next week. It's a week tonight, Wednesday the 28th, and you've got the band with guest singers Lorraine Crosby, Terry Slessor we mentioned, and Mick Whittaker too.
Mick Whittaker, yeah.
So great Northeast lineup of talent there.
Three of the best from the Northeast, yeah.
Let's hear that Searchers song. Just had Colin in South Shields, who I think is a Searchers fan. He said you were talking about the Searchers. How about playing the song? So this was one of the tracks you wrote for the band, yeah?
Yep.
should be. I don't wanna be the one to say goodbye. I don't wanna look the problem in the eye. And I don't wanna be the first to say, maybe we should both go today. I don't wanna be the one to say goodbye. I could be wrong.
I Don't Want to Be the One from The Searchers, one of many songs written by our guest tonight, Steve Thompson, Northeast songwriter. Steve Thompson, just to go through some of the names again: Celine Dion, Sheena Easton, Elkie Brooks, Chris Farlow, Sarah Brightman, Colin Blunston, The Searchers, we've just played that, The Hollies, Elaine Page, loads and loads of famous names. And a special show with your band, with those guest singers. In fact, there's two, but the first is a week tonight, and there are still, I think, one or two tickets left.
Yeah, we've got a few tickets left, and you can get them at steve-thompson.org.uk. Nemec Studios is directly opposite the Discovery Museum, and you can also come along on the night. I'm sure we could squeeze a few extras in as well, and just get a ticket on the door. So if you want to come along on spec, that's fine as well.
That's a week tonight, Nemec Studios. That's Blandford Square, isn't it?
Yeah.
Newcastle. And if you can't make that, you've got another one coming up in December at the Live Theatre in Newcastle.
That's right, yeah.
Wednesday the 14th. You see, you have them on a Wednesday night. I can't come.
That's why we did it.
Thank you. We mentioned briefly before Pete Waterman you were involved with, and there was a bit of a crazy story about, was it Jaws 3D?
Yeah. Well, Pete got me into all sorts of crazy scapes, and I got this urgent phone call, you have to be in London tomorrow. So I flew down, went to the office, and there was this American movie producer. He introduced me to him, and it said it's Jaws 3D. And we've got Streisand for the theme tune. We want you to write the lyric. And so this producer explained to me that there was these two dolphins that were in love, and then they break up, and it's boy meets girl, boy loses girl. And at the end, the two dolphins are back together again. So they went off, him and Pete went off to have lunch. And as he went out, the guy turned around at me and said, "Hey, kid, give me a love song for two dolphins." And I went out and I put this tape on. How on earth am I going to do this? I just doodled and I drew sharks' fins and stuff. And anyway, they came back from lunch and I hadn't done a thing. I thought, for it here. So Pete picked up the piece of paper. He said, "What I tell you about my boy? Look at this, look at this. Sink or swim, I will follow him." Wonderful line. It was the only line I had. But he convinced this guy that it was a done deal. So they cleared the recording studio upstairs, and the poor guy that was in there doing some recordings, they said, "You've got to sing this." So I had to spend the rest of the day writing lyrics to this orchestral pomp. And then this poor guy had to... It was just all over. It's on the internet now. Apparently, Jaws 3D is a big deal. People follow it in little strange stories, and I'm one of the strange stories. And I never really believed that Streisand was going to sing this rubbish. But there's a balance between turning to a major movie producer and saying no, and the guy that's paying your wage check, Pete, no, or just, okay, I'll have a go. Even though you know it's just a crazy long shot, because every now and then some of these long shots come off. And, do you know, I never heard another thing.
Oh, crazy. And Eurovision, you've had a go at that, writing songs for?
Yeah, I got to the last 10 with Wogan one time, and the big deal was that year. They said, we don't want any more of this boom, bang, bang, dancing girls or any of that sort of, that usual rubbish. So we put in a sort of a rock soul, and the guy who sang it is the guy who's now the Mike Stacey, who's in Smokey. And guess what won? It was a boom, bang, bang, girly dancing thing. And I also wrote the English lyric to the Italian Eurovision entry back in '83. And along comes Terry Slessor again, because I'm on the phone to Terry and I said, I want you to do this Bullfrog song. He says, yeah, and I want you to do that Eurovision song from 1983. And I thought, I didn't see him doing that kind of thing. But the fact, there's a guy, a friend of mine, who's a common friend with a mate of Terry's, who's now passed on, called Tommy Morrison, with whom I wrote the Elkie Book song that you played.
All right.
One of a Kind. Tommy did the demo of, because not only when you write an English lyric for an Italian singer, you need to give them a demo as well so they get the pronunciation right. So just before it went live, they rang me and played it to me over the phone, and has he sang it right and everything. So Tommy did the demo for that. So I think that quite touched Terry, so he's doing that one as well. So between the three of them, Mick Whittaker, Terry Slessor and Lorraine Crosby, we've got a great lineup of songs and a tremendous band as well. We've got Paul Smith on drums, Richard Rutherford on bass and Dean Stockwell on keyboards. They're the guys that dragged me out of retirement to do this stuff, and I hadn't played for 16 years, and there's many a time I wanted to quit because I forgot how to hold a guitar. So they made me do it, and here we are with Showtime next week.
Hope it goes really well. I'm sure it will. We mentioned the Tigers of Pantang. Should we play one of those?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Have a listen to this. Tigers of Pantang, final song written by Steve Thompson. We're featuring tonight. Way past your bedtime, Mr. Thompson.
It is. I don't know. And I've got to drive home in the dark.
Well, have a safe journey. Lovely to see you again. I hope the shows go well.
Thank you.
And just a quick reminder, Nemix Studios, Blandford Square in Newcastle, week tonight. That's the 28th. Steve, great to talk.
Thank you.
BBC Newcastle, proud to be part of the BBC.
Thanks again to Steve Thompson. A lot of feedback coming through. People enjoying the chat with Steve about the songs from Susie here. Blown away by this guy. Hey, he's left the studio now, but I'm sure he'll be pleased to hear that. Beckett, we talked about Beckett, Terry Slessor and Beckett. Susie saying, Beckett, a group of my time. Used to follow them. Great to hear the songs that Steve had written. Now, Music Connection, just a little...